Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. In today's video, I'm doing some French country spring wall art. For my project today, I'm going to be using this wood blank that I got online. I will be sure to link it below. And I'm going to be first creating some texture. So I'm grabbing some of Dixie Belle's Sea Spray texture additive, and I'm going to be adding it to chocolate chalk mineral paint. So I'm going to pour out a little bit of my paint, and then I'm going to scoop out some Sea Spray a little bit at a time and mix it well. I'm then going to apply the mixture using a chip brush, and I'm just adding it to the center part of my board. So I want to create some texture here. This wood is smooth and very new looking. I want it to look like old barn wood maybe that has been painted over the years and has all that wonderful texture. The chip brush is also going to help with this. Often I will dab and stipple this product on, but for today I am just brushing it on. The mixture is thick enough that I am creating lines and imperfections, which is exactly what we want because this is the layer that's going underneath our paint. When my base coat is dry, I'm going to use Dixie Belle's Buttercream chalk mineral paint and my size 12 eco brush, and I am going to start adding my paint. Now I'm letting those bristles skip over a lot of that texture, and I don't mind if the coverage isn't even. In fact, we do want that chocolate to show underneath. We are going for a layered, painted, almost old barnwood look. To create even more texture, I did use my hairdryer to speed up that drying process to create some cracks and some raised detail. I also took some 220 grit sandpaper and sanded back some of the buttercream, pulled back through some of that chocolate texture that we created. Next, I'm going to be using Redesign's Stripes stamp. I'm so excited, guys. I am now a Redesign stockist, and I'm so happy to be carrying this awesome line. This even comes with a grid sheet there so you can line things up. Now, the reason this stamp really spoke to me is because of this grain sack stripe design. So I'm going to pull off the plastic that comes with it. And the beauty of these stamps are that the image actually stays on one side of the stamp, so you can see exactly what it's going to look like without needing the plastic backing. I'm going to be using Dixie Belle's Silk Morning Sunrise paint. I'm going to pour a little bit of that out on some cardboard, and I'm using my brayer, and then I'm going to start adding that paint to my Redesign Stripes stamp. Now, when you're using paint, you do want to use a little bit more paint than you would in other cases. You definitely want to use more than you would if you were just using ink. I'm then going to position my stamp in the center, and when I'm happy with the position, I'm going to press down. Now, I don't need this to be perfect. In fact, I want this to look worn and vintage looking, so I don't need a perfect look here. So you can see I'm applying pressure and then lifting straight up. I'm then going to add some more paint to my stamp, line it up so that we can have that stripe continuing down the center of our design. When my paint is dry, I'm going to take IOD's Queen Bee stamp, and I want to use the laurels that we have there to add to my design. So I'm just working out here how I'm going to have to position it. I'm then inking up my design with IOD's permanent black ink, and then cleaning up any excess ink with a wet wipe, and then positioning it on the left-hand side first. So I'm positioning it in a way that I can continue the pattern a bit further on up the top, because I do need this design to be a bit larger than it appears as is. So I'm inking up the design again, but not all the way. So you can see I'm wiping off the excess, and then I'm going to position it just above the previous image that we stamped to continue that laurel design. I'll be repeating the same process on the right hand side, and it doesn't matter if this doesn't turn out perfect because we are building a background image here. Next, I'm going to be taking an element from IOD's Antiquities stamp. I'm going to ink that up with permanent black ink, and then I'm going to position it in the left-hand corner there. Next, I'm going to take this script stamp that I found online and I'm going to ink up part of that design, and I'm going to be adding it to the bottom section of our wall art there. So I'm just going to be applying that first section first, and once I am happy with that impression, I'm going to ink up another section of the stamp and place it next to it just so it looks like a continuation of that text. I then added a little bit more ink and just sort of randomly pressed the text down so it looks like a fractured image. I then grabbed this little postage stamp design and I'm going to just add that to the top left there, just layering it over the top of the IOD image. I'm then going to spell out the word lavender in French. I'm using IOD's typesetting stamp here, and I'm using a thin mount. I'm using those grid lines to help me line up the text and make sure that it's straight. You can see I'm just repositioning my letter stamps there just to try and get it as straight as possible. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm going to take some more of my permanent black ink, line it up on the top section there, and you can see that I have left a gap where the other letter A needs to go. So you can see I'm just applying pressure and then I'm going to lift it straight up. Then I'm going to grab that letter A and add that to the center to finish off our word. When the ink was dry, I took some of Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Satin and I'm going to seal my entire design. When that's dry, I'm going to use Redesign's Lavender Harvest mold. I have been wanting to use this design for so long. I have it in stock as well for you guys if you want to try it. And I'm dusting the design first with some cornstarch, and then I'm going to use some of my Das air dry clay. I'm rolling it into a sausage sort of a shape, and then I'm going to start pressing my clay into the design. So with using these ones, I found that sort of pushing my clay off to the side helped a lot to get a cleaner impression, and also just being a little bit gentler. So I'm going to continue working that clay out of the mold, then I'm going to flex it, and this time I did flip it over and I used gravity to help me get my design out. I was very impressed with the quality of the details in these molds. So I'm going to start positioning the castings on my board there just to work out how much of this I'm going to have to cast, and I'm going to continue casting this lovely design until I'm happy with how it looks. Once I'm finished casting my lavender, I'm going to cast the sweet little bees that are in this mold. I'm then also going to cast the larger bow design from this mold here. I feel like that's a lovely touch down the bottom of this little lavender bunch. Now that I have all of my castings ready, I can start gluing everything down. I'm using my Sealy's Quick Set wood glue. Any wood glue will do really. And you can see I'm using a palette knife to help me lift up the different castings. They were a little bit delicate in certain sections, so this just really helped me make sure that I didn't pull them too hard or cause them to break. After I had all of my castings glued down, I allowed these to dry overnight. The next day, I came in with Paint Couture's Crackle Step 1. I'm applying it to the center part of my wall art there, and I'm applying it in a sort of cross-hatch sort of motion. If you apply it in this random way, you're going to get more authentic looking crackle. I let that dry, and once it was tacky to the touch, I came in with Crackle Step 2 and repeated the same motions as before, applying that over the top of Step 1. I then let that dry for several hours. Next, I'm going to be using Dixie Belle's Amethyst chalk mineral paint. I'm applying it with a small artist brush, and it doesn't matter too much if I go in the other areas because obviously we have sealed that. We've also got the crackle down, so I'll be able to wipe up any errors that I make. Obviously in real life, lavender has a lot of different purple tones, so I'm going to take some of Dixie Belle's Buttercream chalk mineral paint and I'm going to be mixing it with the Amethyst chalk mineral paint to create a lighter purple. So I'm going to stir that really well, and then once I'm happy with the color, I'm going to start adding it to our lavender flowers there. You can see I'm just hitting the high points at this stage. Once that lighter purple layer was dry, I came back in with the amethyst and added that back over the top to just sort of blend those two tones together, make it look a little bit more realistic. When that was dry, I used Paint Couture's Evergreen chalk paint, and I'm going to be using this on the stems of the lavender. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I am now a Redesign with Prima retailer. I am adding products as they arrive from the US. So if you are in Australia and you would like to try the Redesign products, make sure you check out my website. I am also so excited to be doing the Easter 2024 release soon, so keep your eye out for pre-orders. To add some realism and create some tonal contrast, I then took Paint Couture's Basil chalk paint and I'm going to layer that over the top of the Evergreen paint that we have added to the stems. I also then went in and added a few little dots of that Basil chalk paint in amongst the petals, in amongst the purple tones. Again, when you look at lavender, it's usually not all just one color or all just purple. You're going to see other little seeds and things through there. So this is going to add to that realism. When that was dry, I took my buttercream brush that we used at the beginning, wiped off the excess, and now I'm going to do some dry brushing over the top of our lavender. And I love how this is bringing out all of those details. When that was dry, I took Paint Couture's Light Brown Sugar Antiquing Glaze and my Paint Couture brush, and I am going to go over the top of the center part of our artwork. I'm first obviously focusing on the areas where we added that crackle, and then I'm using a wet wipe to wipe back the excess. I want the overall tone of the center section to be antiqued, but obviously I don't want it to be too dark. So we're letting it build up in certain areas, wiping it back in others. You can really see that crackle starting to show through as well. I'm also going to work that glaze into the sections where we have our beautiful lavender. I really like the sort of halo effect that you get when you add those into the details, and I'm going to make sure that I also go over the top of the lavender itself. This is going to add to that tonal variation that we always talk about that gives your project depth. So I'm going to work it into the center section there with the lavender, and then I'm going to use a wet wipe to wipe back the excess. In certain areas, I also took my mister and I used that to help water that glaze down a little bit in the center, especially in the areas where I had trouble getting that wet wipe. So I'm going to continue to add that glaze until the entire center section has that antiqued look. Next, I'm going to use Paint Couture's French Gold metallic paint, and I'm going to be adding it to the bow. So this is a very rich, heavy metal metallic paint, so it has a lot more pigments than just the Luxe Metallics, and I'm adding it to that beautiful bow. I love this gold. It's not really bright, it's not really dark. It definitely is, just like it says, it's a French gold. It is so beautiful. And remember, with the metallics, obviously as they dry, they do get brighter. I'm also adding that same beautiful French gold to our little bees. When the gold's dry, I'm taking Paint Couture's Pitch Black chalk paint and I'm going to paint on some little stripes on our bees, and I'm also going over the top of some of the details to bring the bees a bit more to the forefront so they don't blend into the back as much. If I've inspired you to try any of the Paint Couture products I've used today, I would really appreciate it if you would use my affiliate link. I will put it in the description and on the screen. I just get a little thank you from Paint Couture in return. For the frame of our artwork, I'm going to be taking Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown glaze and I'm going to be adding that around the entire outside. I love the darker tone of this contrasted with the lighter brown that we have in the center, and this definitely gives a French country feel. I didn't want to go too far with this. I thought about adding molds around the frame, but I really wanted the art in the center to be the star of this project as opposed to going over the top with the frame. So we're just adding this glaze and I think it's going to frame it nicely. So I'm adding it with a brush and then I'm using a paper towel to wipe back the excess. If you don't have access to this glaze, you could create a brown paint wash with a brown water-based paint to stain your frame, or you could just use a traditional stain from the hardware store. When that was dry, I took my buttercream brush again and I'm doing some more dry brushing over the top of our little bees and our lavender just to make them pop again, bring out those details again. And here's our finished French country artwork. I had so much fun using the new products that I have from Redesign. That lavender mold is absolutely gorgeous and it pairs beautifully with the stripes stamp. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find most of the products used today on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.